You think I don't know that you are shamelessly throwing yourself all over that peasant, low-life fish boy, he said sharply. Princess Honor looked him straight in the eyes. 1. Whoever I choose to speak to is none of your business. 2. The low-life fish boy is a better man than you will ever be. 3. Don't you ever speak to me like that again. Long time ago, in a faraway kingdom named Umudasi, which lay by the famous river Niger, lived a very famous fisherman named Okala. He was known even in neighboring villages as the one whom the gods had blessed. A day did not pass that Okala did not have a bountiful harvest. It was as if the gods showed him where exactly to cast his net in his dreams. Because not only did he catch an unimaginable amount of fishes, he caught big fishes. And many traders came from far and wide to buy from him. Okala prospered in his profession. He excelled, and as a result, he was respected by many. Like most people his age, Okala was married to a beautiful woman named Adako, and together they had a son named Olisa. Eager to train his son in the ways of the water, Okala at a very tender age started taking his son along on his fishing expeditions. And as the boy grew, he started to master the fishing techniques. Olisa grew strong and handsome just like his father, and also became very good with fishing. Father and son continued to work together, their bond growing stronger as the years passed. Apart from fishing, one of the things Okala loved the most was his wife Adako. He loved her with all his heart and would do anything to please her. The couple had been in love since before they were teenagers and remained inseparable. But Adako had a serious health challenge. Since she was a little girl, she was always sick. Even the medicine men could not explain why it was so. But miraculously, she always got better. Because of this series of illnesses, Adako looked fragile. But she had a good heart and did her best to spread love to those around her, regardless of the pain she was going through. Okala looked beyond her ailments and fell in love with her. After their marriage, her ailments persisted. It was even a miracle that she survived childbirth. Seeing the pain that his wife went through to birth their son, Okala decided that they would have no more children. And so he got her some herbs that would prevent her from conceiving again. Adako continued to live, managing her health. She knew deep down that one day, very soon, she would not be able to fight back anymore. Her body got weaker with each day that passed. One day, some years later, Adako went into another episode of illness. But this time, the medicine men could not save her. She is tired, Okala. She wants to rest, they said to her husband. Okala was devastated. How was he going to survive without his Adako? They had loved each other so deeply. Now she was gone. He did not take it well at all. The strong Okala cried like a baby when he saw his wife being lowered to the ground. Olisa was 15 when his mother passed. He had been very close to his mother too, being her only child, and he wept when she left. But somehow, he was at peace that she had gone to rest. His mother had suffered a lot in the hands of sickness. Throughout his growing years, she had been sick almost all the time. Even in his young mind, Olisa knew that his mother was going through a lot. even though she tried to hide her pain behind a smile. Now he felt somehow at peace, knowing that she was in a place where she would never feel pain again. The only thing that worried Olisa now was his father. Okala had become a complete shadow of himself since his wife passed. He could no longer eat or sleep. Even fishing had been abandoned. Olisa had to step up and become a man in order to take care of his father. He took charge of the fishing business, hoping for his father to get well soon. He worked so hard to continue putting food on the table since his father had lost the zeal to do anything. But Okala's health too began to deteriorate. He became so sick that he lost his sight. Olisa, afraid of losing his father, doubled his efforts in order to save up enough money to employ the service of the best medicine man he could find, while putting food on the table. He went out very early before the crack of dawn and came home before the sun was up in the sky. Just like his father, he did well and they both survived. But Olisa could not have a life outside the river and his father's compound. He had no friend anymore because he was always busy working or caring for his sick father. He did not mind at all. His father was all that he had left in the world. Life continued in the same pattern for Olisa until the day he turned 18. The fishing season was gone for the year, but Olisa woke up that day with his heart filled with joy. He decided he was going to catch a fish just to make a special delicacy for himself and his father to celebrate his birthday. Very early that morning, he went to the river as usual, but did not catch any fish. He did not give up. He promised himself that he would not leave the river until he caught a fish. He was there until the sun came up in the sky, yet there was not a single fish in his basket. Just as he was about to give up, his fishing hook became heavy. He quickly pulled it out. To his greatest delight, he had finally caught a big fish. With joy in his heart, Olisa started his journey home. He was going to prepare a delicious plate of pepper soup with the fish. Just as he climbed the small hill leading out of the river, something remarkable happened. Olisa's eyes fell upon the most beautiful maiden he had ever seen. She looked so beautiful and innocent. Her beauty radiated with so much intensity that he became captivated. She moved with a grace that screamed of royalty, and as he looked somewhere behind her were three maidens who were obviously escorting her. Judging by her clothing and the beads she wore, he could swear that she belonged to the royal family. As he approached her, she smiled at him and his heart skipped 2 beats. The maiden's name was Princess Ona, the only daughter of King Echezina, the sovereign ruler of Umudasi. That day, the princess was feeling bored in the palace, so she decided to stroll down to the river for a swim. She had never seen Olisa before, but immediately she set her eyes on him. Something about him drew her to him. She did not usually leave the palace very often, so she wouldn't have known him. She smiled at him and he smiled back. His smile was magnetic. She was captivated by the young man and she did not even know his name. When Olisa greeted the maidens and went his way, Princess Ona could not stop looking at his retreating figure. As if he sensed it, Olisa turned around to get one more glance at the beautiful maiden. Surprisingly, she still stood at the same spot where he left her, and their eyes met and held for a brief second. Olisa, immediately feeling shy, quickly averted his gaze and walked as fast as his leg could carry him. Meanwhile, the maidens accompanying the princess did not miss the brief silent exchange. They noticed everything that had transpired and looked at the princess, their faces etched by surprise. "My princess," Chika, the senior maiden and the one closest to the princess, said, "I hope all is well. You are acting strange." Princess Honor, ignoring her question, asked, "Who is that young man?" "That is Olisa, the son of Okala the fisherman," Chika replied. Okay," Princess Honor said. "Let's continue to our destination." But her mind had gone far from what really brought her to the river and been replaced by the thought of a certain young man with a pointed nose and eyes that seemed to see through her soul. Back in his father's compound, Olisa quickly cleaned the big fish and prepared a delicious pot of pepper soup. But he did not feel in the mood to eat anymore. His mind was preoccupied. He thought about the beautiful maiden he had seen earlier that day. He had never seen her before, not to talk of knowing her name. But from the way she looked, he was sure that she was either from the royal family or a daughter of one of the wealthy village chiefs. He could still see her face in his head, and her beautiful smile remained branded in his memory. Okala watched his son from where he sat, with his unseeing eyes. The boy was unusually silent. Olisa truly had not touched his food. He was daydreaming and had a weird smile on his face. "Is there something wrong, son?" Okala said, cutting through his son's train of thoughts. Olisa quickly jolted back to reality. "No, father, everything is fine," he lied. But Okala knew he was lying. Even though he could not see, he sensed the change in his son since he came back from the river, but it would not bother him. He would definitely open up on his own when he was ready. Princess Honor back at the palace did not fare any better. All she could think of was Olisa. She had fallen in love with him, but she knew that deep down she was walking on a forbidden path. Her father would never let her be with someone like him. In fact, he already had plans to marry her off to Agba, the son of a wealthy gold merchant, Chief Udoka, the wealthiest man in Umodasi kingdom. Since he had no son, whoever married her would become the next king of Umodasi. Princess Honor had no feelings for Agba. He was arrogant and treated people with disrespect. She made up her mind to become friends with Olisa. She did not care about her father. What bothered her at the moment was if Olisa felt the same way she was feeling. The next day, Princess Honor left the palace without the knowledge of any of her maidens and headed for the river. Just like the other day, the sun was up and the village girls had finished fetching water as usual. As she made her way down the hill, she prayed that she would meet Olisa again. That same day, Olisa also left the house as early as usual. The fishing season was over, so there was not much to do. But he lingered after he had finished his rounds for the day. He waited just to see if the beautiful maiden would show up again. Luckily for him, he did not have to wait for a long time. Just as the sun was going up in the sky, there she was, descending the little hill in all her beauty and grace. Immediately she saw him. Her face lit up with the most beautiful smile he had seen. He sat on a rock and smiled back at her. Princess Honor walked straight towards him, her heart filled with joy. She was not so sure that she would see him again, but there he was. When she got to where he sat, he stood and greeted her. "Good morning, beautiful maiden. My name is Olisa," he said shyly. The princess smiled. Thank you, Olisa. I am Princess Honor. The name rang a bell of warning in his head, but he totally ignored it. She was way above his class, the princess of the kingdom, and he, just an ordinary fisherman's son. There's no way something meaningful could come out of this. Olisa knew all these things in his head, but his heart said otherwise. He did not even know this maiden very well, but he had fallen in love with her. The young lovers sat beside each other, talking and laughing, as if they had known each other for a long time. But Olisa could not stay long. He had to take care of his sick father and also sell his small catch in the market. They both went their separate ways, with promises to meet again the next day. When Olisa finally reached home, he met his father in a critical condition. His health had worsened. The medicine man, when he came, could not do much for Okala. "I'm sorry, Olisa. Your father may not make it. As I speak with you, his spirit is almost gone. There is nothing much I can do for him," the man said before leaving. Olisa became very sad. His father was all that he had left, but it was obvious that the loss of his beloved wife had affected him greatly. Over the next few days, Olisa did not leave the house. He waited on his father day and night, afraid to even leave his side. The thought of honor crossed his mind every now and again. He wished she could appear beside him. He needed someone to talk to, but it was not possible. They had agreed to meet again, but his father needed him right now. 3 days had passed, and he had not seen her. His sadness multiplied. He was torn between his love for his father and his budding love for the princess. His father, though blind, could sense his inner turmoil. One evening, Okala gathered strength to talk to his son. "Olisa," he began slowly, "I have silently observed you these past few days. You seem different. What is the matter?" Olisa shook his head. "There's nothing, father. I'm just worried about you." "I know you are worried about me, but there is something else that bothers you. I'm a father. Tell me," Okala insisted. Olisa remained silent for a while, as if contemplating his response. Then he decided to open up to his father. He told his father about his encounter with the princess and their new friendship. Okala, after listening to his son, asked, "So what bothers you, my child? She seems to feel the same way you feel about her." "Yes, father," Olisa replied, "but I fear the king will never let a man like me come close to his precious daughter. And besides, she probably hates me now," he said, a deep sadness descending on his face. Okala became confused. "Why would she hate you?" he asked. "I promised to meet her again by the river 3 days ago, but I did not go. She must think I am being deceitful." Okala finally understood what was going on. His son did not go because he wanted to care for him. His heart filled with love for his boy, but deep down, he also wanted his child to find love and be happy. "It is late already. Tomorrow will be the start of a new chapter in your life, Olisa. I want you to pursue whatever makes you happy, without fear. You are a brave man. Do not sit down and wait for things to come to you. Know what you want and go for it. Some people will stand in your way. Some may even look down on you, but always hold your head high. You will be great, my child. Now go to bed," he finished. Olisa felt better after his conversation with his father. He spread his mat on the floor beside him and lay down to sleep. Meanwhile, at the palace, Princess Ona was deeply saddened. She had gone to the river every day for the past 3 days, but Olisa never showed up. She wondered what must have happened to him. Was he sick? Or had she been fooled? She worried all day, unable to eat or sleep. Her senior maiden, Chika, noticed the change in her mood and asked what the matter was, but the princess would not open up to anyone. The queen, who had been observing her daughter, approached her one morning after she had rejected yet another breakfast. "What is the matter, my precious gold? What troubles you so much?" "There is nothing, mother, I'm fine," the princess replied, trying so hard to avoid eye contact with her mother. The queen knew her daughter well and could tell when she was lying. "I know you are hiding something from me, and I will not leave here until you tell me what it is." "Or are you with child?" she asked, her eyes wide with fear. "No," Princess Ona exclaimed. "Then what is the matter?" her mother pressed. Seeing her mother would not leave her alone, and coupled with the fact that she never hides anything from her mother, Princess Ona told her about the handsome young man she had met by the river. "Who is his father?" the queen asked. "It's Okala the fisherman," the princess responded, her voice suddenly quiet. "What?" the queen exclaimed. "You know your father would never consent to that. Besides, Agba is already there. His family status is more befitting for a maiden like you," she said, her tone pleading. "But mother, I don't even love Agba. He's not the kind of man I want," she said, her eyes filling with tears. The queen replied. "The one you love does not seem to feel the same way about you. If not, why has he refused to show up since?" Princess Ona could not say anything anymore. Perhaps her mother was right. But something deep inside her told her otherwise. Olisa woke up the next morning to face another harsh reality. His father was gone. He let out a loud scream. He thought he had been ready for it when it would happen, but he realized that nothing could prepare you for being bereaved of both parents within a short period. The news of Okala's death spread throughout the village. The villagers felt pity for the young man who had lost both parents within the short period of 3 years. They came in groups bearing gifts to give their condolences to Olisa. That same day, with the help of some of the young men in the village, Olisa buried his father beside his mother's grave. Just as everyone had dispersed, Olisa sat alone in the hut that was once filled with laughter. He was lost in deep thoughts when he heard a sharp knock which jarred him back to reality. He opened the door to see who it was. To his surprise, there stood Princess Ona in all her regal beauty. She gave him a look that said a million things. "I'm so sorry about your father," she said. For the first time since that early morning, he wanted to give in to the tears that threatened to pour out of his eyes, but he was determined to hold it in until she came closer and gave him a hug. "It's okay to cry, Olisa," she said. Olisa could not hold it in anymore. He let out all the tears unashamedly. Her maidens stood at a safe distance, watching the emotional outpour between the two lovers. Olisa explained all that had happened and apologized to the princess. Their relationship after that day took a different turn. They became closer with each day that passed. The villagers started seeing them together, even though they did their best to be discreet till she was able to convince her parents about him. Rumors started flying here and there till it got to the ears of Agba, the man the princess was engaged to marry. Agba was furious, but there was no cause for alarm. The king would never consent to such an embarrassing suitor for his daughter. However, he was going to speak to his soon-to-be bride. Her brain needed to be reset immediately. He went to the palace and was immediately granted permission to see the princess. When he was alone with her, the fake smile he had been flaunting disappeared from his face. "Why are you embarrassing me, Princess Honor?" he asked, his tone icy. "What do you mean by that, Agba?" she responded. "You think I don't know that you are shamelessly throwing yourself all over that peasant, low-life fish boy," he said sharply. Princess Honor looked him straight in the eyes. "One, whoever I choose to speak to is none of your business. 2, the low-life fish boy is a better man than you will ever be. 3, don't you ever speak to me like that again." Agba's rage boiled over, but he managed to hold it in check. "You seem to forget that I am your soon-to-be husband and the king of this kingdom. You will accord me the respect I deserve," he retorted. Honor's eyes darkened. "So this is what this is about. The throne. Now listen very carefully. I will never marry you. Now please leave," she said quietly. Agba wanted to hit something, but he was in the king's palace and one wrong move could destroy everything for him. He turned on his heels and marched out of the palace angrily. Princess Honor became more worried after her exchange with Agba that evening. It was obvious that he did not love or care about her. All he was after was the throne. She would find a way to make her mother see things with her. Then maybe she would be able to convince the king on her behalf. She went into the queen's chamber later that night and told her everything that had transpired between her and Agba that day. "He does not love me, mother. Agba only wants to get to the throne through me. Please, mother, I don't want to be with a man who does not love me," she pleaded. The queen looked at her daughter tenderly. She remembered how the former queen had fought against her marrying the king because she was not of royal blood. She remembered how unhappy she had been then. She did not want her daughter to suffer from such unhappiness. She promised to speak with the king on her behalf. As soon as Honor left her chambers, the queen went straight into the king's chamber. Luckily for her, he was still awake. He smiled when he saw her. "What took you so long, my queen?" The queen sat down on a chair in front of the king, her countenance sober. The king looked at her with a frown. "What troubles my queen?" he asked. "My king, I greet you. There is something that has been bothering me for a while now. Our daughter is not happy." "And why is that?" the king asked, his worry evident in his voice. "She's in love, your highness," the queen responded, dreading what was coming. "Ah, that's great news. But love is not the thing to be sad about. Or has Agba and his people changed their mind without informing me?" he asked. "No, your highness. She is not in love with Agba. In fact, she has refused to marry Agba. She's in love with Olisa, the son of Okala," she said as fast as she could before she lost her courage. The room became so silent, the queen feared what was going to happen. "Okala the fisherman? My daughter is in love with the fisherman's son? Do you realize the gravity of what is happening, Obidia?" She cannot marry an ordinary fisherman's son. A peasant like him is not fit to sit on the throne of Umudasi. But Your Highness, the queen pleaded, we must consider our daughter's happiness. Agba does not even love her. He's only after the throne. Besides, it's not a taboo for her to marry whoever she chooses. Enough, Obidia. Do you know what I have to lose if this marriage does not work? Our both families have an understanding. Chief Udoka is the richest gold merchant in this region. If our families come together, we will be very powerful. The queen shook her head in disbelief. This is not the man I fell in love with. You chose power over your child's happiness, your only child. The king was not bothered. Talk to your daughter Obidia. I will not hear any talk about this fisherman's son again, and that is final. The queen left the king's chamber angrily. She was deeply disappointed by her husband's words, and she had no idea how to break the news to her daughter. When she finally broke the bad news to her daughter, Princess Ona was so angry. She marched into her father's chamber. I will not marry him, father. The king looked at his daughter perplexed. How dare you walk into my chamber and speak to me in that manner, young lady? The princess bowed respectfully. My apologies, Your Highness. Forgive my outburst, but I will not marry Agba. We do not love each other, and I love another. You mean the fisherman's son, the king interrupted. I forbid you from seeing that boy henceforth, and we will not have this conversation again. Leave. Princess Ona cried her eyes out that day. She could not imagine being with another man, talk more of it being Agba. She truly despised him, but she would not back down. That evening, she sneaked out of the palace to meet with Olisa. Since the pressure became too much on them, the young lovers started meeting at a hidden spot in the forest. Unknown to her, Agba had followed her from a distance. Immediately she left the palace and followed her all the way to the forest where Olisa waited. Seeing how happy they were together made his anger boil. He was going to teach this boy an unforgettable lesson. He went straight to the palace to tell the king what he had just witnessed. The king became furious and waited for the princess to sneak back in. Princess Ona, totally oblivious of the storm that brewed in the palace, tried to get back into the palace, but met her father. Meet me in my chambers, the king said as he stormed inside angrily. How dare you disobey me, he barked when the doors were closed. Do you know what you have done? Do you know what will happen if Chief Udoka hears about this? Princess Ona remained stoic and fearless. They will betray you, father. All they want is the throne. They don't care about us. Don't be blinded by power, father. Enough, the king thundered. Henceforth, you are banned from leaving the four walls of this palace. Now leave. Princess Ona cried and pleaded with her father, but all her pleas fell on deaf ears. To make matters worse, the king placed guards in front of her doors and instructed them not to let her out of their eyes. Olisa knew the king was against his relationship with the princess, but the queen was on their side. He had no idea how this would end, but he loved the princess and would not give up without a fight. Hopefully, the queen would convince him. He was totally unaware of the situation at the palace, so like every other day, he went to their usual spot in the forest. Nothing prepared him for what he saw there. Agba and some dangerous-looking boys stood there waiting. "Here comes the fish boy," Agba said mockingly, and they all burst into laughter. His first instinct was to run, but he remembered his father's last words. "They will stand in your way and even look down on you, but you must hold your head high." He turned to face Agba. "What do you want, Agba?" he asked quietly. "Nothing. I just want to show you something," he replied coolly, and then signaled to the boys. The boys descended on Olisa. Olisa fought with all his might, but it was 5 against 1, and he was easily overpowered. They beat him up and left him battered beyond recognition. Olisa, unable to move, waited for his love in his condition, but she did not show up. He started having a bad feeling about the whole situation. He managed to drag himself home when darkness began to fall. That night, he had a dream. His father appeared to him in that dream, and they talked for a long time. When he was about to leave, he brought out something from his bag. It was a beautiful colored parrot. "This is my gift for you, son. Let it be your companion. Treat it well, and it will bring you luck." Olisa woke up startled. This was the first time he had seen his father since his death. The dream had felt so real. It was daybreak, but he could not go fishing in his condition. His body felt sore. He opened the door to step outside, and then his eyes fell on something at the doorstep. His eyes opened in shock. In front of him stood a beautiful parrot, exactly like the one his father gave him in the dream. He picked up the parrot. Surprisingly, not only could the parrot talk clearly, it knew his name. "Good morning, Olisa. My name is Icheku." Olisa took the bird inside, still too shocked to say anything. He remembered his father's words. "If you treat the bird well, it will bring you luck." He had no idea how a bird could bring him good luck, but it was a gift from his father, so he would cherish it regardless. From that day, Icheku became Olisa's companion and informant. It would fly into the village and get information from different sources, and then come back to tell Olisa what was going on in the village. It was through Icheku that Olisa learned that the princess had been banned from leaving the palace. Agba, on the other hand, was finally happy that he had gotten rid of Olisa for good. Now, the next action was to speed up the marriage process. But Princess Ona remained adamant. She told him to his face that she would rather take her own life than become his wife. This got Agba really worried. If the princess was not going to marry him, then he needed to come up with his second plan. If the king died without an heir, then his family, being the second most influential family, could contend for the throne. Since the princess refused the peaceful way, then they would have to eliminate the king before they are forced to give in to their daughter's demand. Agba, with the help of his father, planned with Chika, the princess's senior maid, to poison the king's food the next day. Unknown to everyone in the palace, Chika had been secretly working for Agba. It was her who informed Agba of her every move and every time she sneaked out of the palace to see Olisa. She kept him updated on the things that went on in the palace. In return, Agba promised to make her his second wife when he became king. But now that they were going to eliminate the king, she would become the queen of Umudasi kingdom. The thought alone filled her with pride and joy. What they did not know was that no one had heard as they had crafted their sinister plans, but a particular bird, perched on a nearby tree, had heard everything. Icheku went home that day, extra excited, to tell Olisa all that he had heard. Olisa became instantly worried. He must inform the king immediately before they got the chance to carry out their plans. He got dressed in his best clothes and went to the palace. Immediately he got to the palace, he requested to see the king, but was denied access. "It is very important," he pleaded with the guards, but they did not listen. The noise attracted the king, and he came out to see what was going on. When Olisa saw the king, he knelt before him. "Long live your majesty. I am Olisa, the son of Okala." The king was immediately filled with rage when he realized who he was. "How dare you show your face here? Guards, lock him up." Olisa cried and pleaded with the king to hear him out, but the king paid no heed. The guards seized him and locked him up in the palace prison. The queen, who had watched everything unfold, felt pity for the poor boy. She took food to him personally that night, so that he would at least not starve, while she talked with her husband to release him. When Olisa saw the queen, he knelt before her and pleaded with her to speak with the king on his behalf. "My queen, this is a matter of urgency, a matter of life and death. I have to talk with the king tonight." The boy seemed to know what he was saying, and so the queen went in and convinced the king to listen to what the boy had to say. Olisa was brought before the king, escorted by the queen, since he insisted that he wanted to say was a big secret. He told the king everything Ago, his father, and Chika had planned to do. "And why should I believe anything you say?" the king asked. "Tomorrow morning," Olisa said, "you will be served pounded yam and egusi soup, because it's your favorite. But the food will be laced with poison and served by Chika." The king suddenly became afraid. Truthfully, pounded yam and egusi was his favorite food. The boy knew what he was saying, the king thought to himself, but they would wait till morning to confirm the truth. Olisa was taken to a comfortable room in the palace, where he spent the night. Morning came, and the king's breakfast was served by Chika, as was predicted. Not only that, it was pounded yam and egusi soup. The king broke into sweat. He signaled to the guards, "Seize her." The guards, always ready to obey without asking questions, seized Chika, who had already started crying and acting as if she had no idea what was going on. The queen asked her to eat the food since there was nothing wrong with it, but she refused and started confessing how Ago and his father had asked her to do it, with the promise that she would become his queen. The king was shocked. His wife and daughter had been right all along. Chief Udoka and his son had been desperate for the throne after all. He asked his guards to lock up the maid in the palace prison and sent the messenger to invite Chief Udoka and his son to the palace so that they could start the preparations for the wedding. When they arrived, the table was already set for breakfast, so the king invited them to join him. When they saw the table set, Chief Udoka and his son exchanged a knowing look. Their plan was already in motion. It was good they were here. No one would suspect them. Chief Udoka thought to himself. As they started eating, they kept watching the king to see when he would fall. But suddenly, Chief Udoka started coughing and choking. Agba suddenly became alarmed. He looked at the king, who was eating with a wicked smile on his face. Are you surprised, Agba? Yes, I learned of your wicked plans and fed your father with what you both wanted to feed me with. I will spare your life and let life deal with you. You are wondering how I found out? He signaled to his wife, who went in and came out with Olisa. If not for this young man here, I would be lying dead right now. The maid you promised to marry is locked in the palace prison as we speak. I will release her to you and give you 12 hours to bury your father and leave this kingdom forever. The day you step your feet into Umudasi again is the day death will strike you, the king said, his voice maintaining calmness. After Agba had departed from the palace, the king looked at Olisa. How did you know about their plans? It does not matter how I came upon their wickedness, your majesty. What matters the most is that you are safe, Olisa replied, bowing respectfully. The king marveled at how tables had turned. The boy he had judged and treated with contempt, without even knowing, had been the one to save his life. No one was more deserving of his daughter than this young fisherman here, he thought to himself. All the while, Princess Honor had remained in her room for days, refusing to see or talk to anyone. She sat in her room that morning, feeling miserable as always, when her door opened. She looked up to see who it was. Her eyes lit up immediately she saw Olisa standing there. She flew into his arms. The young lovers held each other and cried. The king and queen stood by the door, watching the lovers, their eyes filled with tears. Their joy was simply too beautiful to behold. Princess Honor felt betrayed when she heard that Chika, her trusted maiden, was a part of the plot to kill her father. And I trusted Chika so much. How could she do this? But then, they were all happy that it had ended well for all of them. A few months later, Olisa, the fisherman's son, married the love of his life, Princess Honor. The village was flown into celebration. They were all happy for the couple. Despite all they had been through, their love won in the end. Olisa was filled with joy. Truthfully, they had been through a lot, but in the end, Icheku had performed the miracle they had hoped and prayed for, and brought him the good luck, just as his father promised. Many years later, King Echezina passed, and Olisa was crowned the king of Umudasi. Icheku remained with him, giving him daily information about what was going on in the kingdom. However, his true identity remained secret. The only person who truly knew about Icheku was Queen Honor. King Olisa and his queen had both male and female children, and they all lived happily. The people of Umudasi continued to thrive and enjoyed peace. Hey lovers, thank you for listening to this story. If you're new here, welcome to our community. I hope you enjoyed listening to this story as much as I enjoyed creating it. If you have not done so already, please hit the subscribe button. And to support the growth of our community, give this video a big thumbs up, share, and drop a comment. I'll take my leave now, but I hope to see you in my next video. Bye.